Hi and welcome to grief painting number 5. I've just been looking online for different ideas and there was this really nice idea on this site where you make a window which is a view out towards the place where the person you've lost lived. So my mum died a month ago now, so it's quite an important milestone really. And she was from Darwin. She was born in Darwin, she stayed in Darwin, she lived in France briefly, very briefly, but most of her life she was in Darwin. She taught in Darwin and sang in Darwin and did various other things, but Darwin was very important to her. So I'm doing a view of Darwin, some terraced houses, Indian Mill and Darwin Tower. This is the view that my mum's house, her last house, still my dad's home, looked out over as well. And it's quite an important view to me because I spent a lot of time up on these moors in my life while I lived in Darwin. I don't live in Darwin anymore, but I do visit regularly, and I was up on Darwin Tower. This is Darwin Tower only a few weeks ago. It's really beautiful. If you've never been and you're up in that part of the world, then go and have a look. It's really gorgeous, and the views are amazing from there. You can see right over to the Lake District, and when I was up there I always used to feel really free. I also used to ride my horse up there, so really important part of the world to me, to my mum. So it's a nice way of representing her and me at the same time. So these are the moors. I'm painting over Indian Mill because I'm going to do that in brown later anyway. So just using watercolour, and it's going to be a very simple representation. I'm using the colour here. I've got like a burnt umber colour. I have to be very careful near my sky because it might bleed, because that's wet and this is wet. So you can see it's sort of moving into the brown just there, and I'm just adding water as I go down, but I'm going to paint around the windows of the terraced houses. So I'm going to take the brown down to there and then put it in down below the windows of the terraced houses. So it's a very simple representation of the place where my mum lived. So maybe you can think of the place where the person who you're grieving for lived, and do the same exercise. You don't have to do it in watercolour, you can do it in anything. You could do it in pen or coloured pencil. So there's in between the windows and there. So I've just painted round. I put the sign, a Darwin sign there as well, so I'm just going to push that colour back up there a bit, and I'm going to put a little flash of green in behind the tower, behind the Indian Mill on the moorland, just so that you know it's a green area. Okay, and then on the windows I'm just going to put a very pale coat of blue, similar to the sky. And again, the window frames are going to be dark, so I'm not too worried about painting over things. So, you know, focusing on the place where the person lived will help you think through all the things that they enjoyed, where they like to walk, what they like to look at, the types of housing they lived in, important monuments to them, all those sort of things to do with the town or the village or the area that they lived in. I'm going to finish this off, but I'm going to do it on time lapse. Oh, that slipped a bit, I think. Never mind. So there we have the first stage of this window through grief painting. So I don't know whether you remember, but at the beginning I had masking tape blocking off the window frames part of the picture, and I've just removed that. You'll have seen that in the time lapse. So the next thing is to paint these window frames. I'll do that, and then after that what you have to do is you have to cut with a scalpel around the three edges, these three, that one, 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 but not along the top here, because effectively you'll see later on we're going to fold those back. Okay, so then the next thing to do is just to paint the window frames, and just paint them very basically with a bit of brown paint like we did with these windows. Okay. Okay, so once this watercolour piece is completely dry, dry it off with a hairdryer if you want to. What we're going to do is just cut scalpel. Best to use a scalpel rather than a pair of scissors. And we're just going to cut along this edge. Hopefully that's gone through. No, not quite. Let's just do one. Hopefully your blades are a bit sharper than mine. Excuse me. I'm finding all these exercises really calming, and it also gives me a little bit of time, because I'm back to work now, to just keep reflecting about my mum. And like I said, it was a month last night since she died, so it's quite important that I keep thinking about her, and this is one way of doing it, to create artworks that are to do with the person that you've lost. And like I've said in previous tutorials, they don't have to be people that you've lost recently. It can be a person that you lost a long time ago that you want to reflect or remember. So once you've got that cut out, so the bottom, the left and the right hand side and the bottom, what you want to do is just run your blade along the top, but don't cut all the way through, just really gently, and then that will create a window like that. Okay, so you do that with all 4 pieces. Okay, so once you've cut out all of your windows so that they flap up like this, the next stage is to turn it over and apply some glue to the window frame area. And then you need the same sized piece of card or paper to stick it onto. So this is A5. So I've got a piece of A5 card ready here. I'm just going to stick that down carefully onto there, and then put it in between a book or something, or put something heavy on top, or even turn it over and press so that it really sticks really well. Okay, so the idea is that you flip up a piece. There is a question here and an answer here. So I will do that now, and then I'll show you the finished product in a minute. Okay, so here's the finished piece. I've cut out all the windows and I've put my messages inside. Now, obviously, if you want to keep these personal, then you go ahead. You don't have to reveal them like I do. But each one should have, actually I might have to zoom out a bit so you can see it a bit better. Let me just move this down. Okay, so each one should have a question on the underside of here and then an answer inside. So this one says, my favourite memory of you, walking through Sonniahurst Woods. And I wrote it in pencil and then I've done it in pen, just so that, because you know, you can make mistakes. And I would just use a putty rubber, or no, any rubber really, and just rub out the rest of the pencil so it's nice and clean. You can even colour the backgrounds, or you can even put, I don't know, you could put photographs in here and maybe write over the top of them. There's all sorts that you could do to make this a little bit more fancy. So the next one is, the thing I love about you the most. You can make up your own questions and answers. And so I said that you always respected our space, both me and Lisa, my sister. You never asked too many questions, or, you know, were nosy about our lives. You're always very respectful. Didn't over ask questions, which is great when you're, especially when you're younger, about what we were up to. So what made me laugh about you, that you wore a Blackburn Rovers shirt to school. You were a teacher at the time. So that was very funny for me, because, you know, you never saw teachers in football shirts at school, but you were so happy when they were promoted to the Premier League that you wore a shirt to school. That's just so funny. Anyway, and the next one is, what would I like to say to you now? So I miss you and I wish you'd had a little more time. I think that's probably the main thing, that I wish we'd had a little bit more time together. Okay, so I hope this helps you. I hope it helps you to reflect. It's a nice little piece of artwork that will remind you about maybe where you were born. It's not necessarily where your parents or the person that you're grieving for lived, but you may have even been born there. I was born in Darwin. I was actually born just over here on top of this hill in a place called Bull Hill, which had a special hospital for mothers in Darwin. It doesn't exist anymore, but which is a shame, because it was a lovely place. Okay, hope you enjoyed that, and see you next time. Bye for now.